Hi, this is Badiarov, violin designer and violin maker, speaking and playing for you from my workshop in The Hague, the Netherlands. If you are a violinist or violist or maybe an instrument maker, have you ever wondered what distinguishes a fine instrument? By the way, I was playing for you one of my violins in this video. What distinguishes a fine instrument from an instrument-shaped object? Alright, I'm sure you wondered, and maybe you have been thinking that it is the kind of the wood, it's maybe the model, maybe it's the age of the wood, maybe it is the provenance of the instrument, maybe it's the tuning of the plates, maybe it is, you name it, the kind of varnish, the kind of wood preparation, and so forth. And in a way, you are very right, but there is one essential element which is systematically overlooked in instrument making since the past few hundred years. And I want to take you on a journey to ancient Greece and speak about Marco Polius Vitruvius. If you never heard his name, don't worry, but I want to share with you, he was an architect, and he wrote one of the most influential books on architecture, the 10 books on architecture. And these books were very well known throughout the Middle Ages, through the Renaissance and Baroque periods. It has been published and republished countless times and was one of the most studied sources of all. Essentially, most importantly, it was the source that was so widely studied by Palladio and so forth, the architects of the Italian Renaissance. Anyway, in these 10 books, he dedicates one entire book to building a perfectly sounding theater, or how you build a public venue in which acoustics are important. And in that book, he dedicates an entire chapter to the law of harmonics. And he tells how, using those laws of harmonics, you design a perfectly sounding amphitheater or a public venue. So, in the end of the chapter on harmonics, he adds, those are the laws which are used by the skilled workmen who fashion musical instruments in order to bring them to the perfection of their proper concords. Now, how do you feel that? If you potentially hear this for the first time in your life. When I heard this in 1994, when I read it in 1994, just after I moved to Brussels, I felt really overwhelmed. I thought, wow, this is it. I really have to do my very best not only to find out more about what those laws of harmonics are and how they can be applied in musical instruments, but also how to really master and actually really do this. I started my research, and soon after I came across with a number of sources, and some of those sources, for example, Marin Mersenne, L'Harmonie Universelle, he speaks about, if I remember it well, it is chapter 6 or maybe 56, it doesn't matter, but there he speaks about the proportions in the lute, and he speaks about the proportions between the neck and the body of the lute, which must be minor sixth, and he adds that nothing in the lute should be not harmonical. One source just a little bit later than Mersenne is Pablo Nassare, Escuela Musica según la Práctica Moderna, published many times, first time in the very end of the 17th century. And in that book he speaks about proportions of violins and violin-like instruments, guitars, violas, and so forth. And he, funny enough, he holds the violin like this. He says that the proportion in the lowest part of the instrument must be dupla, the proportion in the middle part of the instrument must be tripla, and the proportion in the upper part of the instrument must be sesquialtertia. And you know what? It took me so many years, it took me almost 25 years, to actually master this method, to understand where are all those harmonical proportions and the laws of harmonics hidden in this instrument. And now it is so simple for me that I actually can teach. And I was teaching instrument makers from all around the world how to design instruments according to the ancient laws and the primary sources that we have at our disposal. Now, I hope that you learn something about what makes a really nice instrument and why some instruments sound great and some instruments just don't sound great regardless their provenience. And the laws, the ideas which I have just shared with you, by the way, they were lost by Italian violin makers already in the middle of the 18th century. For example, if you look into Antonio Bagatella's first treatise on violin making ever written, published in 1782 or 83, he doesn't say a word about the laws of harmonics. Obviously, he didn't know anything about Mersenne. Obviously, he didn't know anything about Pablo Nassara. And he didn't know anything about Vitruvius. You see, the knowledge, if it is not practiced, can be very easily lost. And this is the reason why today the majority of instrument makers and probably all violin making schools teach how to produce copies, because there is no this essential, the most quintessential knowledge of the philosophy behind these beautiful shapes. And we tend to call it inspiration, but in a sense it is rather desperation out of lack of knowledge. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I look forward to welcoming you at my workshop if you are a violinist or violist, if you want to try my instrument and see for yourself how they function, how they sound. If you are an instrument builder and you want to learn more how this works, if you want to learn how to design these beautiful instruments freehand, how to build them with absolute certainty and potentially create your own style and your own language in this beautiful craft, you are very much welcome to contact me and potentially join the tribe of instrument makers that I have had the privilege to serve. Thanks for watching. This was Dimitri Badiarov, violin designer, violin maker, speaking to you from my workshop in The Hague, the Netherlands. And I see you in the next video.